On the night of March 27, 1999, the United States Air Force flew a plane that officially could not be seen. No radar signature, no heat plume, no acoustic trail worth tracking. The F-117 Nighthawk was not just a weapon, it was a doctrine, a $45 million declaration that America had moved past the age of conventional air combat, that the next war would be won invisibly, by jets that ghosts couldn't find. And yet, at 8:15 in the evening, over the Serbian countryside, a surface-to-air missile found it anyway. The pilot ejected, the plane broke apart across a farm field near Budanovci, and by morning, a Serbian general was standing over the wreckage, smiling for cameras, holding a piece of the future that was supposed to be untouchable. So here is the question that has never fully been answered. How do you shoot down a plane that isn't supposed to exist? To understand that night, you have to understand what was at stake, not just militarily, but psychologically. The F-117 was born out of humiliation. After Vietnam, the U.S. military had a problem it couldn't ignore. Surface-to-air missiles, SAMs, had torn through American air power. North Vietnam, armed with Soviet-built radar and missiles, had shot down over 3,000 U.S. aircraft. The lesson was brutal. Speed and maneuverability are not enough if the enemy can see you coming. Lockheed's Skunk Works division took that problem and through the 1970s built an answer. The result, first flown in 1977, classified until 1988, was the Nighthawk, an angular, faceted airframe designed not to evade missiles, but to scatter radar waves so completely that it registered on enemy screens as little more than a bird, a large, slow, billion-dollar bird. It worked. Spectacularly. In Gulf War I, 1991, F-117s flew just 2% of combat sorties, but struck over 40% of strategic targets. They flew through some of the most heavily defended airspace in the world. Not a single one was scratched. By 1999, the F-117 had become more than a plane. It was proof of concept for American military supremacy. The Air Force believed, with good reason, that stealth had changed war forever. That belief was about to be tested. NATO begins Operation Allied Force on March 24, 1999. The stated objective, stop Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic from ethnically cleansing Albanian Kosovars. The unstated assumption, Serbia's aging Soviet-era air defenses would fold within days. The F-117s would handle the hard targets, command centers, bridges, radar installations, and the whole thing would be over in under 2 weeks. What NATO planners underestimated was one man, Colonel Zoltan Dani, commander of the 3rd Battalion of the 250th Air Defense Missile Brigade, stationed outside Belgrade. Colonel Dani was not a reckless man, he was a careful one, and careful is dangerous. He had studied American electronic warfare doctrine. He understood that the F-117 stealth did not make it invisible to all radar, only to high-frequency radar. What he had was an S-125 Neva, old, Soviet, originally built in the 1960s, but it operated on a low-frequency band, the exact band that could, under the right conditions, catch a faint, ghost-like return off an angled airframe. Donnie also knew something else. He knew the Americans were creatures of habit. Here is where cause and effect becomes deadly. Cause 1, predictable routing. NATO planners, in the interest of coordination and safety, had been routing F-117 missions along similar corridors night after night, the same entry angles, the same timing windows. Donnie's team had been watching, building a picture not from radar, but from ground observers, radio intercepts, and pattern analysis. By the time March 27th arrived, he had a narrow but viable targeting solution. Cause 2, complacency born from success. The F-117 had flown 40 missions in the first 3 nights of Allied force without incident. When you have never been hit, you stop thinking about being hit. The pilot that night, Lieutenant Colonel Dale Zelko, was experienced, but the mission had become, in the calculus of air war, routine. Cause 3, a brief radar window. Donnie's operators turned their radar on in short, controlled bursts, just long enough to acquire a target, not long enough for NATO's anti-radiation missiles to lock on and destroy the radar site. This was textbook. Break the American countermeasure cycle by minimizing your electronic footprint. At approximately 8:15, they got a return. Faint, inconsistent, but real. 2 SA-3 missiles were launched.
One missed. One did not. Zelko's aircraft was struck. He ejected at low altitude. NATO's search and rescue teams, operating with extraordinary speed, extracted him from a field before Serbian forces could reach him. He was home within hours. The plane was not so fortunate. Its wreckage was spread across several hundred meters of Serbian farmland, and Serbian state television made sure the world saw it by morning. The immediate military impact was limited. The F-117 fleet kept flying. NATO continued its air campaign for 78 days. Milosevic eventually capitulated. But the strategic damage was something else entirely. First, the propaganda victory. Images of the wreckage were broadcast globally. Serbia framed it as David slaying Goliath. For audiences skeptical of NATO's campaign, particularly in Russia and China, it was confirmation that American technological dominance was not absolute. Second, the intelligence windfall. This is the part that kept American officials awake at night for years. Serbian and Russian intelligence services gained access to the crash site before it was fully secured. Stealth technology is not a single secret. It's an accumulation of coatings, geometries, materials, and radar-absorbing composites. What fragments were recovered, examined, and potentially shared is still not fully public knowledge. Defense analysts have since noted that Chinese fifth-generation fighters, the J-20 in particular, feature design elements that bear a striking resemblance to the F-117's geometry. The timing of Chinese stealth development accelerated notably in the years after 1999. Third, the doctrine was cracked. Not broken, but cracked. Stealth works, but stealth plus predictable routing plus complacency does not work. The Air Force had treated the F-117's technology as a substitute for tactical discipline. It wasn't. After the shoot-down, the Air Force made adjustments, randomized routing, increased electronic jamming support, and tighter coordination with suppression of enemy air defense assets. But the deeper fix never really came. The F-117 was retired entirely in April 2008, faster than any comparable aircraft. Officially, the reason was budget efficiency. The B-2 Spirit was a more capable stealth bomber. The F-22 Raptor was the future of stealth fighters. But quietly, within the defense community, there was an acknowledgement that the F-117's vulnerabilities were not unique to that aircraft. Stealth, as a concept, rests on assumptions that the enemy uses high-frequency radar, that they lack the discipline to turn it on and off rapidly, that they cannot predict your flight path. Remove any one of those assumptions, and the plane becomes less invisible. The Serbian engagement proved all 3 could be removed simultaneously. 3 things this story makes undeniable. 1. Technology is only as good as the doctrine surrounding it. The F-117 wasn't defeated by better technology. It was defeated by patience, preparation, and procedural discipline. Colonel Donnie did not outspend NATO. He outthought them within the narrow window available to him. 2. Repetition is a vulnerability in any system. Every time a military force establishes a pattern, flight corridors, timing cycles, coordination protocols, it creates a target. This principle extends well beyond aviation. in cybersecurity, in intelligence operations, in economic strategy, routine behavior is exploitable behavior. 3. Wreckage has a second life. What ends up on a battlefield doesn't stay there. The physical debris of a technological system can be retro-engineered, studied, and absorbed. The F-117 crash was not just a propaganda moment. It was potentially a years-long intelligence event whose full consequences we still cannot measure. Dale Zelko, the pilot who ejected that night, eventually met Colonel Donny face-to-face over a decade later in Serbia. They sat together, they ate together, and by all accounts, they respect each other deeply. Two professionals, two men who understood their jobs completely. One who got lucky, one who made his own luck. The F-117 proved that stealth changes war, but Serbia 1999 proved something older and less comfortable. No technology eliminates the human capacity to find the gap. It only raises the price of finding it. The next generation of stealth aircraft, the B-21 Raider, China's J-20, Russia's Su-57, are all built on lessons from that field in Serbia. But the question they all carry remains unanswered. Who is watching the pattern right now, and what are they planning to do about it? If this story changed how you think about military technology and its limits, share it with someone who assumes the future is already won. And if you want to go deeper, the next video covers how stealth coatings actually work and why maintaining them is harder than building the plane in the first place. Subscribe. See you there.